right? When they see these goals, they say, wow, if I could get 1,000 shares of Amazon, I could sell calls against that and get $3,000 every month. I mean, that's, my expenses. I'm paying my expenses by selling calls. Today, we're going to learn how to make $300 a month or more by selling calls. These are also known as covered calls. So what are the requirements to do this? Well, one, you need to have a brokerage account like Robinhood, where you have 100 shares or more that would allow you to sell a call against. So the first part of this video, we're going to show how to actually do that on Robinhood. In the second part, we're going to explain more of what is a covered call. All right, so diving into this, again, the first thing you need is 100 shares of a stock. Once you own those shares, and in this case, Amazon, you can click the trade button and you'll click trade options. And Robinhood will have a strategy builder where you can choose different strategies. We're going to ignore that for now. And at the top, you can select your expiration date. And that is the date where the options expire and any transactions of the actual stock would take place. So we're going to go ahead and select June 5th. That puts us about a month out. And we're going to choose a strike price that is a bit out of the money. So we don't want our option to be assigned very often. And we still want to be able to collect a nice credit. So we're choosing the 285 call. And this page will display all the information you need, like your delta, your theta, and the price that you can get for this option is how much money you're going to receive up front. So we're going to type in 1 because we want to sell one call option. And we're going to set the limit price at $3. And remember, an option is 100 shares worth. So if I'm receiving $3 here, then that's $3 per share, so $300. And you see the estimated credit there is about 300. And the price was actually moving around a bit when this was occurring, so I decided to raise it by 5 cents. And then you click review, and your order goes through, and hopefully it gets filled. And you can see I received a credit of $304.96. So there are options that are weekly, quarterly, yearly, and the farther you go out with your expiration date, then the more money you can collect up front. Or in theory, if I wanted to sell calls every day, I could, but then the money that I would collect from each day would be much less. So I have to do that every single day. And a nice middle point is somewhere around once a month or once every 3 months. And then it's you're still kind of consistently collecting that money without having to be too involved with it. And what I mean by being too involved is you don't want to have to go in and place your orders every single day. And also, you don't have to deal with assignment risk every day. So this is a good point to go into our part 2 of the video. Now that you've seen how to actually place the orders for the covered call, let's explain what that is. So let's start with the basics. If you're buying a call, you are buying the right to purchase 100 shares at a certain point in the future. And by the way, I have a whole video on calls, so check that out if you're interested. So what a covered call is you are selling a call, and then you also own the shares themselves. So if you have 100 shares of the stock and then you sell a call, then that would be considered a covered call because you're selling a call, but then you're also covered by the shares that you own. So if you are assigned and you have to put up those shares, then you already own them and you're good. So you don't have to do any other transactions. You basically just sell your shares that you own to them. So you might be picking up on the risk with this strategy is what we would call assignment risk. You've sold the call, you've gotten your money, and I can just do this every month. And you can, but the problem is some months you might be forced to sell your shares. Okay, so we were using the example with Amazon. Today, Amazon's about $260, and we were selling the call at $285. So if at the end of 1 month, Amazon shares are more than that $285, then the person that's buying that call would most likely call the shares. So they would force you to sell the shares to them. So they pay you for the shares at that $285 a share, and then you sell them the shares, then you get the $285 a share. And remember, you got the credit up front earlier, so you keep the credit, and then you sell the shares to them at $285. So you say, okay, well, so they forced me to sell the shares. I mean, I'm okay with that. I received a credit, and then I sold the shares for a higher price than I initially bought them for. So I mean, this is okay. But I want to continue doing my strategy where I can sell a call every month and keep on collecting my money. Well, if you are assigned and then you end up without your shares, to continue doing the strategy, you need to buy back your shares at that price. And so that's the only real downside with this strategy, is that if someone wanted to do this every month, some months, and remember they can choose the strike price for the call that they sell. So if they go really far away, really out of the money, then they might almost never be assigned, once every few years, and they wouldn't really have to worry about it. And if they go really close, so if the Amazon price is 260 and they're selling a call at like 265, probably 40% of the months, then they would have to be assigned and then buy back their shares. So there's a middle ground somewhere in there where, like if the example I showed, 285, maybe once or twice a year you might be assigned, given those conditions of being, if the Amazon price is 260 and the strike price is 285, maybe once or twice a year will the price of the shares have moved up far enough to where you would have to be assigned. So the only downside is that once or twice a year you would have a taxable event. Since you bought your shares and then you sold them for a profit, then you would have to pay taxes on that. So maybe like 15% or 20% on your capital gain. But I really don't see this as being much of a problem, because if I'm collecting, in this example, $300 every month, and then once or twice a month I have to pay taxes on a gain that I had, well, then once again, it's already a gain. So I already made money from buying the share and then selling it at a higher price. So yes, I pay taxes, but it's taxes on something that I've already gained. And then plus you additionally have the credit that you're receiving every month. So for at least some people, I would see this strategy as being a way to be able to pull money out of the shares that they already own. And this would allow them to consistently cash flow every month. So who would this be best for? Probably someone that's older and is starting to look at retirement. And they say, I don't want to just sell my shares and just get rid of them and be done. I want to hold on to my shares and still watch them appreciate. But I want to be able to pull out some money from that. I want to see some sort of cash flow. And there's a really cool tip that I want to show you, and it's the delta. Now, if you're not already familiar with what delta means, it's one of the Greeks. What delta means is that if the price goes up by $1, so if Amazon goes from 260 to 261, then whatever the delta is, that's how much the option price would change. Okay, so in our example, Amazon is at 260, and we can see here that the call delta is negative 0.225. So ignore the negative for a moment. If it's a call and the delta is 0.225, that means if there's a $1 change in the share price, then the option price changes by 22.5 cents. So you can see there's the bid price and the ask price, and the middle price is going to be somewhere around $3. So if the delta is 0.225 and Amazon goes up by $1, that means that this call price will go up by 22.5 cents. So it'll go up to $3.22. And in this case, it's showing a negative delta because we're trying to sell a call. So it's saying like if Amazon goes up by $1, then that's going to work against us because we're selling the call. We're hoping Amazon goes down, and if we're selling a call. So it's negative because the value of our position would go down. Versus if you bought a call, then it would just be a positive 0.225. Then for every dollar that Amazon goes up, then your option price will be worth 22 cents more. Now, additionally, what this delta means and what you can roughly use it as is as a percentage chance that the Amazon price would be at that strike price in the future. Okay, so once again, Amazon's at 260 right now. We've chosen the 285 call. The delta is 0.22. So what that means is there's a 22% chance that the Amazon price will go above that 285 at the time of June 5th. So this is a really great tip that you can use for any of your options. Let's say the delta was 0.7 and it was a call, then that would mean that there would be a 70% chance that the price would be above that strike price by that date. So when we apply this to doing a covered call strategy, you can look at the delta and use it to decide how often you'd want to be assigned. Probably for someone wanting to do this as a long-term strategy that they do every month, they'd probably want to do a lower delta. So probably something like 0.1. Only 10% of the time would they want to be assigned. Only 10% of the time would they want that price to rise above their strike price. Or someone more aggressive that understands that they're going to be assigned more often, but they're okay with that. They just want to collect a lot more credit right now. Then they could go to a delta maybe that's like 0.3, and that would mean that 30% of the time the price would be above their strike price, and then they would be assigned. So if that was a little confusing to you, that's okay. It was confusing to me and everyone else as it starts doing this. I encourage you to just play around with the different strike prices and just click on the different ones, look at their delta, and as you play around with it, then you'll kind of start to get the image in your head of what's going on. So when you're selling covered calls, you probably want to try to find a happy medium of where you don't want to be assigned very often, but you still want to collect a decent credit every month. And so for me, that's going to be around somewhere around 0.1, 0.2, and in this case, we did 0.22. So somewhere around there, that's where you want to be your delta when you're selecting which strike price to do. And furthermore, if you're learning about options, I really encourage you to use this free tool that I made, and I'll leave the link in the description. So this is an option calculator. In these blue squares here, you put in the information like the volatility, the strike price, the time to expiration, and then it outputs the information of what the call price should be. It breaks it down to intrinsic and extrinsic value, and that'll help you understand those two variables. It also gives you all the Greeks, so the delta, gamma, vega, theta for the call and the put. It'll tell you everything you need to know. And one, it's just great to have the information. And then two, it's really a great tool to learn because you can play around with it. So for example, if the stock is at 25 and the strike price is at 25, then the call price would be 5.7. Now let's say tomorrow the stock jumps up to 30 and you say, well, what would the call price be? Well, we make that adjustment and we say, boom, the call price jumped up to 9.1. Wow. So I can change all my variables. I can get the exact answer that I want on what the call and put prices would be. And in this case, your call price almost doubled just based off of that change in the stock price. So this will be in the description. It's a great tool. I really encourage anyone that's learning options and anyone that just wants the information on, what if the time changes? What if the volatility increases? All of these things, you can just use this calculator, plug it in, and it'll just tell you. You don't need to try to wait around and see what happens. So guys, I hope this was informational and I hope it inspired you. Send this to someone you know that's retired, that has a lot of shares and might be looking for ways to get more cash flow, and send it to someone younger that's building their portfolio, right? When they see these goals, they say, wow, if I could get 1,000 shares of Amazon, I could sell calls against that and get $3,000 every month. I mean, that's, my expenses. I'm paying my expenses by selling calls. So the more people understand about the stocks and options, then they have more options available to them. And there's just more things that they can do with their money. So once again, I hope you guys enjoy the video and thank you for watching.